Hi everyone, welcome to the third tutorial with Derwent that I am hosting. We've just had a slight issue with Zoom where people's webcams are coming on and we're not sure why that's happened. So if you don't want to be on screen, just turn your camera off, that's fine. So yeah, everyone's muted. That's just because we don't want any interruptions, but if you do have a question, please type it in the chat to Derwent, and Charlotte at Derwent will be speaking your questions to me out loud so I can answer them for you. So this evening we're going to be working on an eye. We've got an hour to do it, and it's a lot to get done in an hour, but I'm going to be focusing primarily on the eyeball, getting that done to show you how to get sort of that glossy, realistic look of an eye. So we'll start on that now. So I'm going to turn around and we'll switch cameras and I'll get started. So you can see I've got an outline here already, which you can download. We'll put a link in the chat so you can download the reference image for tonight and this outline I'm using now if you want to have a go yourself. So what we're going to do to begin with is I'll explain that with an eye, what you'll find is that the pupil in the middle obviously is the dark area, and then towards we'll go out to the iris here. So this section here is the iris of the dog's eye, and then you've got the pupil in the middle. Now, you'll find with eyes that they start dark in the middle, then they go out and they'll get lighter, and then they'll get darker again towards the edge. And you'll find that with any eye, it's always important to remember that. So it's dark to light and then back to dark again, and then just these areas here are the whites of the eyeball. So what we do first is we look at the lightest colour in the iris. So you'll see that it's a very pale yellow, and that's this area here, and that's the bit I always start with when I'm drawing an eye. So I'm going to use my Derwent pencil eraser, which you can just sharpen in a normal pencil sharpener. And I'm just going to lightly rub out my outline. Not all the way, because I still want to be able to see it, but I just want to do it slightly so it won't come through when I put my pencil marks down, like that. So I've just rubbed out the outer edge, and you can just brush it away with the brush on the end of the pencil eraser. And then I'm just going to rub away the inner edge, which is where the green section is, but still make sure I can see it. And then we've got these squares here, which are the reflections. Now you might be able to see on the reference image there are more reflections in the eye than I've actually drawn on here. Now that's because when you draw it, weirdly enough, if you put too many reflections in, it doesn't look real. So you just select a few. Some eyes you'll see and they've just got one or two reflections. So if it's got a lot of reflections like this eye has, which is why I chose it, you don't want to add all those in because it can make it look weird, and it's just the way the eye sees it on the paper. It's the same with whiskers. If, for instance, you're drawing a cat and it's got loads of whiskers, you don't want to put all of those whiskers in because they really stand out when you're drawing a piece. So I've done that now, and I'm going to go in with the base colour of this light area. Now for that I'm going to be using Light Fast Champagne, and I'm literally just going to colour in. Now unlike with fur, you don't need to go in a specific direction because you're just going to be blending it all together. So I'm just going to go to the edges of where my outline is. Don't worry if you go over the line slightly, it's absolutely fine because it's all going to merge and be blended. So I want to go around where my reflections are going to be because we're not going to touch those just yet. You just want to cover it with this base colour. Now I don't want to go too far just here because there is a little bit of green from the centre of the eye. So I'm just going to stop it there and then carry on up here like this. And then that's the base colour down, like, just like that. There we go. So there we go, I've already started. So eyes aren't as scary to do as you might think, and hopefully this evening it will show you that. So what I'm going to do now is you now look for the secondary colour, and that is usually where these two colours meet. You get sort of yeah, slightly darker tone. So I'm going to go for sandstone in the Light Fast. Now I'm using Light Fast this evening because they're brilliant pencils for blending colours together, and perfect for doing eyes, I think. I absolutely love it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go around the edge. I'm just going to lightly just put in some sandstone, just around the edge of where my outline was. Now if you find you do too much, it's absolutely fine. You can either take some off with the pencil eraser, or you could actually go back over the champagne and it just blends it in like that there. You start to get this nice colour coming through, so it just blends it in nicely. But I'll continue going around the edge first. I'm not putting too much pressure on. I've got my hand halfway down the pencil, and I'm just basically doing lots of little circles. And by doing this, you've got then your definition of where it suddenly starts to get darker. So you've got the light area, it gets darker here, and then it gets darker over here. So it, as you're drawing along, it's basically like a guide for yourself, and it just makes things easier and you won't get so lost in it. So over this side of the eye, it gets a bit darker. Now, because there's a lot of reflections over here, I'll be talking you through this area, because you can see, if you look past the reflections just behind them, you can see that it is darker. So I'm going to put some more sandstone down here. I'm just carefully going to go around where my reflections are going to be. Just like this. So it's not as sort of precise as with fur, what we've done the past few weeks, where you're going in different directions, making sure you can literally just do circles like that. And again, not too much pressure. You don't want that yet. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go over that colour with the yellow ochre. Because like I showed you with the champagne, you can actually blend these colours together quite nicely. So you can see they're just starting to blend like that. So rather than with paints, if any of you have ever painted, you mix your colours on the palette. Whereas with pencils, you mix your colours on the paper. Which is why these pencils are so great, because you can literally just blend and blend away, and you can put layer upon layer and they'll take it. And I'm using Light Fast paper as well, which is great for taking layers. So you can already see we're getting this sort of gradient effect coming across. So my three colours so far have been champagne, sandstone and yellow ochre now. I'm just going to blend a little bit down here. But this area I'll be adding some darker tones down here in a bit, like a brown, maybe like a reddy brown. Just like that there. There we go. So now with this lighter area, obviously this section's green here, and we're going to want that to blend in the same way this is going to blend into this darker area here. So I'm just going to add a little bit of green. Now I'm going to use my well, let's just check this colour first. Yeah, that's the right colour. Right, seaweed green, and very, very lightly just gonna add a few hints of it. Just around the edge. Not too much. And it's always better to do it lightly and not add too much, and then you can go back in later on and add some more if need be. It's amazing how the colours in eyes all sort of merge and blend together. So you've got green in the middle, but then it goes out to orange, and it's incredible really when you look at them. So you can see I'm being quite sort of rough with my strokes. I mean, like I'm doing it lightly, but the strokes aren't smooth, if that makes sense. And that's because, again, in a second I can blend it with the pencil. So I'm going to go in between these highlights as well, just like that. And then what I can do with the yellow ochre, in fact, no, I won't use that one. I'm going to use champagne instead. That one was a bit too dark. I'm just going to blend it like that. And when you're doing this yourself, you might panic, you might think, oh, this is looking a bit weird so far. But don't worry, you just keep going and it will all be fine. Because it is amazing when you're drawing away and before it's anywhere near looking like anything, you just think, I've no idea what this is turning into, I don't know what I'm doing. But you just have to keep going. Right, I'm just going to put in a bit more green here. And then what I'm going to do, I'm just going to use my pencil eraser, and then you can just smooth it out if you feel like you've got too much or it's too dark. Like that. So I've got this bit of a harsh line going on here, so I'm just going to use my pencil eraser to do some circles, like that. And then go back in my champagne and just go over the top of that, and it just lightens it a little bit. So just remember, you can keep going backwards and forwards if you work light. It's all absolutely fine. So the part I'm going to work on now is, I think I'm going to go for the centre of the eye, the darker area. Now, what I like to do first is the pupil, because then you can work out from that rather than, you know, go in and then you're trying to figure out where the pupil's going to go. So you can just do an outline and figure it out. And if it looks slightly wrong, you can just adjust it slightly. So I'm going to do this in chocolate, just put the outline in. It's So I didn't draw the outline on this purposefully because I want you to be able to figure out how to do it. So if you look at the reference photo, you can see the pupil actually starts about halfway down this rectangle reflection here, but you'll notice it's not a perfectly round pupil. It actually comes down so far and then it sort of kinks in like that, and then it'll come round here and it kind of kinks in a little bit again. Because you'll find that pupils, especially on animals, tend to not be perfectly round. So you just have to do a curved line like this, and then just stop where you think about, yeah, so if you look, it's about level with this reflection here. So you stop there and then you look, right, where does it end? So it ends in the middle of this reflection here. So you can start from there and you can just work it up to that. Just do another curved line up like that. And then again over this side, think, where does it start? It starts in the corner. So it's got a slight kink in it. So you're just going to do a little curve and then you come down so far. So about, I'd say about level with this point here. So that's about there. And then you've got, it comes around here between those two reflections and then it sort of goes up like that and meets the two there. So there we go, we've got the pupil in place. So now what I'll do is I'm going to do this section here and I'm just going to grab my greens. So what I'm going to do is put down first a cloud grey, I like fast, because if you look at the green, it's very grey green, and this is quite a nice sort of grey green in the light fast set for that. So I'm just going to lightly colour like this, just to the edges. Don't want to go over if you can help it, but you don't want it to be a harsh line, so you can just softly sort of bump up to this colour here. So I'm just going to do this and just make sure you don't go over your reflections because they're key to making the eye look alive. No eye will look alive without the reflections in it. And then I'm just going to bring it down here like that. And again, I'm just going to be careful around my reflections. Just colour in this whole area. So you can see I've not made like a really harsh edge here. I've just softly gone up to it and around here as well. And then carefully go around this bit. So eyes can be very difficult to do. Well, they're the most daunting thing to do, but once you get the knack of it, it's absolutely fine, and hopefully this is showing you that it isn't too difficult. So just go around here. I can see I should have probably brought the champagne colour down here a little bit more, so that's what I'll do shortly. And there's a bit of green around there like that, and I'm just going to add it between these two here. you've got your base. So you can see it's starting to come together now, slowly but surely. It's not until you start adding the really dark colours though that you'll find that it is going to come alive, especially around the edge. My favourite part is to add the dark area around the edge. I don't know why, I just love that bit. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to use some seaweed green. Now, this is the bit where you've got to look for where the dark areas in this section are, because they sort of are in like little sections. But if you look at it as a whole and you think, oh, I don't know where to start, just look at one side. So if you, for example, look at this side of the pupil, just think, right, where are the dark areas in this bit here? And you can see that there's a dark bit just here. Now I'm using this green, but I'm also going to be going over the top of it with other colours shortly, because I can see there's brown and maybe a bit of orange in there. So you can see there's this sort of shape. So you've basically just got to look for the shapes within it and just draw each shape individually, rather than looking at the whole thing and thinking, I just don't know what to do. So just do one little bit at a time, absolutely fine. So this bit goes up here like that. And then around the reflection, it's darker. Now, what you need to know about reflections in eyes is always dark around the reflection. Reflections will always have a darker line around them. But that's good because it makes them pop out a bit more as well. So just gonna start doing that there. And then what I might do is just lightly go over the top of the lighter area, just sort of blend it together. And then again, I can see there's a bit here. I'm just going to do that shape there. Blend it a little bit. There we go. Now here you've got this reflection, so that's your reference point for the next bit. So again, I'll draw a dark line around this reflection, as all reflections have this dark edge. And I'm just going to look at what shapes are there. I can see there's a bit of a triangle, so that's what I'll do. So I've deliberately chosen a bit of a more difficult eye to draw this evening, because then I can show you the different techniques for it. Because some eyes, for example, a Staffordshire Bull Terrier, they've got very dark eyes, like very dark chocolate eyes. You don't need much detail in those, but that wouldn't have really taught you much about drawing eyes, so I thought I won't do that, I'll do this one instead, which is a lovely spaniel's eye. So you can see there's a few wiggly lines up here as a shape. Now that one, the colour is very slightly different. It's more of the cloud grey, so I'm going to get the cloud grey. I'm just going to go over it and just put more pressure on the cloud grey, like that there. And then because that's down now, I can go back over it with the seaweed and the colour will be slightly different, but I'm not putting too much pressure on. So what I'll do now, I'll just do a quick time check, see where we are. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'll just show you different layering techniques over on this side before I carry on. So here there's a little bit of orange, which is the same, matches this side here where this colour is, and a little bit of here. So I'm going to use sandstone, because once you've got the sort of base colours of the eye, you'll find that they go all over the eye. You don't need to then keep picking up loads and loads of different greens and orange and things. So I'm just going to add a bit in here, not too much, and then I'm going to swap that for a chocolate brown if I can find it. In fact, no, I'll probably go for Vietnam, Venetian red, that's it. Not Vietnam red, Venetian red. And I'm just going to add some of that in. So it's basically, you're breaking it down to look at what colours you can see within the eye. So you start off with the base colour and you just build it up from there. So again, I'm just going to go around this reflection. Just add a little bit in there, but I'm not going to add any on this bit because I'm happy with that. I'm just going to leave that as it is. Like that there. That's basically, I'm quite happy with that. I might just go in with platinum grey and just blend all these light areas together so you haven't got the harsh pencil strokes. So you've got the, when you put pencil strokes down, when you're doing it lightly, you get the texture of the paper coming through. And with, and that happens on any paper. So but with an eye, you want it to be nice and smooth and glossy. So by doing this and blending it all, it just smooths out all that texture. I'm just going to add it to some of these bits as well. Like that there. And then if you feel like you've done it too much, just go back in with the seaweed and just add in a bit. Like that. So now I'm going to start doing this side. So I can see if I use this reflection as my reference point, obviously it's dark around the edge, so that's what I'm going to do. Put in that dark area. And then it's quite dark up to the pupil here, but there's this little gap, I would say, that's slightly lighter. So I'm just going to work my way from the pupil to reflection and back. And then this whole section here against the pupil is quite dark. And then just going to bring it up a little bit. And then up here you've got another dark shape, but I don't want to put any dark bits here because that's, like I said, just a bit of a light area there. And you'll find the more that you look at the reference photo, the more of these shapes you'll see within the eye. So to begin with, you just look at an eye and you just think, no, I can't see that at all. But if you look, your eyes will start to notice it. So again, just using this, moving around, and I'll use this as my reference point now. You can see from here the shape that goes up here. So it's basically just using what you've already put down as your reference, otherwise, like to stop you from getting lost within the drawing and just thinking, oh no, I don't know where I am, I don't know what to do. So I'm just going to make sure that's nice and dark around that reflection there. Like that. And then what I'll show you again is I'll go over with the same colours that I went over this area with before. So down here, there's not too much sandstone, but there is a hint of an orangey colour. So I'm just going to add that in a little bit, but not too much. And then I'm going to grab, if I can find it, I've got a lot of pencils in my hand. So I'll go back to the, there we go, I found it. Vietnam red. Venetian red even. And I'm just going to add in some brown, some of this reddy brown, which is quite a nice colour. And then I might just go get the seaweed, and I'm just going to darken this section here because it's a bit darker than that. And then again, I'll go in with the platinum. I'm just going to blend it all to get rid of any texture and just make it all smooth. Just smooth it all out. Like that there. Now, I'm just going to go back over again with the seaweed just to make sure it is still slightly green, not too grey. Not too much, I'm just going to brush over it like that there. Right, now this area down here is quite brown, I would say. So what I'll do is I'll go back in with the seaweed again, but then I'm going to put more, I'll be heavier with the brown than I have been around here. So I'm going to go around my reflection. Just like that, around the pupil, around this reflection here. Now all this is quite a solid colour, so there's not as many shapes here as I've been describing. I can see there's like a nice line down here, and then this bit comes around there. But keep making sure you've got all your reference points, you know where you are within the drawing. So my reference point at the moment is this reflection here, which I've gone over a little bit too much, but that's fine. There we go. And then there's a little bit over here under this reflection. And then I'm going to go in with my Venetian red. And I'm lightly going to cover the whole of this section. Only lightly, you don't have to put too much pressure on. Just like that. And then what I'll do now is I'm going to grab the chocolate here, and I'm going to go right against the pupil with it, because it is slightly darker on the pupil. And then, so you've got this dark line, and then you can just blend it out like that. Not too much, just a little bit, and it just gives some definition around this area here. And again, I'll do the same over this side. Might go a little bit further out on this side, as this is quite a dark area. Just like that. Just blend it out. As you get further away, just take less pressure off the pencil until your pencil isn't on the paper at all. There we go, and I might just do a few strokes down here, and then I'm going to just go in with the platinum and just blend this area here, just so we don't get those textures. Like that. Right, so now what I'll do is, you can see that there are a few sort of lighter grey areas around here, so I'm just going to use the platinum again. I'm just going to do a few marks, not too many. So just keep making sure you know where you are within the eye. So for example, with this bit here, you've got this section that comes down. So I'm using that as my reference. I think right just to the side of that, I've got these bits of grey. And then again over here, just going to work my way up. And they are very, very slightly green. So I'm going to get my seaweed, and hardly any pressure at all, as if I'm barely touching the paper. I'm just going to go over those grey areas I've just put on, like that. There. And I'm just going to fill this little bit in here because it's annoying me. There we go. Right. So it's looking quite grey on the screen. It is a little bit greener in real life, but it's quite, like I said, it's quite grey green anyway within this eye. So what I'm going to do now is put in the pupil. Now this is the easy bit and the fun bit because it's just colouring in black. So I'm going to go around my reflection because I don't want the black going on that. And it's literally just black light fast. Nice and simple. I'm going to go up to the edge like this. I'm just going to go around the edges to begin with, just to doubly make sure I'm happy before I start colouring in the black area. Like that. And then you can just go for it. Go any direction you want, doesn't matter because it's just a solid colour. Now, once I've done this, I will let you in on a little cheat that you can use if the area around the pupil is dark. So example, like I said, Staffordshire Bull Terriers have got very dark brown eyes. Now that means that it can be difficult to see exactly where the pupil is. So one thing I do sometimes, which isn't on this reference photo, but I'm just going to show you here as an example, is you can actually just fuzz the edges of the pupil like that, so you don't get a defined line on the pupil. Now that sounds weird, but to the human eye it still looks like a normal pupil. And it just means if you do make like a catastrophic mistake and you think, oh no, it's not looking in the right direction or anything, you can just do a bit of blending the edges out and it'll sort it out for you. This is just something I've learned myself from just drawing many dogs, because they've all got different pupils, and then I had a few that had dark eyes and I thought, oh, I can't actually see the edges of the pupil, I'm just going to like fuzz it out at the edges, and I thought, oh, it works quite well actually. So yeah, so that's what you do. And then if you want to, you can just get the chocolate and just sort of blend it like that. So it's just a gradient coming out from the pupil. Now you can still see that still looks like a pupil. It's not as defined, but you know, it's still there, and it's starting to look like an eye. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start going around the outer edge of the eye. So I've not been able to go too detailed in this bit as I probably would normally, because usually this would take me like an hour and a half just on its own. So, but I'm just trying to show you the basic techniques of how to do it. So what we're going to start off with is I'm going to go in with the yellow ochre. Now I'm going to go around the edge of the eye, and you can see it's not actually perfectly round. You'll find that dogs' eyes aren't actually perfectly round. So I'm just going to add a little bit over here, like that. So it's more like a sort of weird wiggle up that way. And then I'll just show you this area here, so I can just literally colour all this in. Now I'm just going to leave a tiny gap up to this edge here, because if I blend them together, I'm just going to lose my guide basically, because my guide is between this line and this line, and if I do that, I'm just like, oh, where do I stop the darker colours? So that's what I'm going to do there. So I will be filling this in shortly, but I'm going to go in with some darker colours around here first before I do that. And I'll just come up here as well. So time is flying, so I'm going to show you as much as I can, but I might jump around a little bit just to show you the different techniques in different areas. So I've just left that slight gap there. Right, and then what we can do is we can gradually build up the layers and gradually get darker, working from here over to this side. So I'm going to grab the sandstone light fast pencil, and I'm going to go along this edge here, just as I did with the yellow ochre, and just colour in. And as we did over here, where you're going and you gradually put less and less pressure on the pencil as you go further out, we're going to do the same here. So less pressure, and it just makes gradient. So lots of pressure, gradually getting less, like that. Again, lots of pressure, gradually getting less. And it's important to make sure you keep looking at your reference photo as well. So I'll look at my reference photo every couple of seconds just to check I'm doing the right thing. So now we've got that in, I'm just going to go back to my yellow ochre, and I'm just going to fill in this gap here. Because now I know that where this gradient starts to end, that's where the dark area starts to end. So I can fill that in and be confident I know where I'm going to go up to, like that there. So it's looking very sort of sunburnt orange on the camera, but it's more of a sort of like a burnt orange, I'd say. So, but I'll probably make a scan of this afterwards, and I'll put it up on my Instagram story so you can see what the colours look like a little bit better. So I'm going to go for a Mars orange now, which is darker than the sandstone. And it's a nice, really nice colour, this one is. Sort of a sort of dark reddy orange. And again, I'm going to do the same thing as I did with the sandstone. So you start off lots of pressure to less pressure, but I'm going to end it sooner than I ended the sandstone. Like that. So lots of pressure just around the edge. Just going to define my edge slightly because this is quite a defined line here. You want lots of pressure to less pressure. Like that. Right, so got the orange in, and now I want to go for some brown. Now I'm going to grab my, where it's gone? Venetian red. It's the one I keep losing. And I'm just going to go around the edge a little bit with this one. And again, doing the same sort of thing as the others, I'm not going as far. Now, I've got all the oranges and like the reddy colours down, but it is brown here as well. So what I do now, we'll get the chocolate, and I put a really defined edge in with this. Because we're working up to the darkest colour now. So it's getting there. Like that. that. And then the dark colour comes down here as well, because there's a shadow where the bottom eyelid is, like that. And then it's quite a defined dark line around the edge, like a fairly thick one. So that's what I'm just going to do here. Just going to pop that in.
Jess?
Yeah?
We've had a question. Are you able just to list out all the colours that you've used, please? And I'll pop them into the chat for everyone to see.
Yeah, so the ones I've used so far are chocolate. Then we've got cloud grey. Then Venetian red. Yellow ochre. Black. Champagne. Brown. I think we used brown ochre. Sandstone. And seaweed. Don't think I've missed any there. I've just got like a whole like load of them in my hands there. So yeah, you got this very defined edge now. And what you want to do is, again, you just want to start blending. So don't put as much pressure on as you did around the edge. Just light pressure and bring it out like this. And you start to get this sort of, you know, go from dark to light, back to dark again. And it starts to sort of make the eyeball look curved then. It's just all about the shading. Spread it down here as well. I'm just going to do a quick time check. Oh, only got 10 minutes. Oh no. Yeah, so the eyes take quite a while to do. So I think what I'm going to do, I'll just try and finish this section off, and then I'll show you the reflections, and then I'll show you the white of the eye. May go very slightly over time, but hopefully you're all enjoying yourselves anyway and learning, enjoying learning. So you might be able to see that on the reference photo, there are some, I'd say sort of like squiggly lines. It's where the, it's basically like the liquid in the iris, how that is forming patterns within the eye. Now, I haven't got much time to be able to show you, but what I would do for that is I'd get probably Ruby Earth, and what you can do is you can just start to draw them in. Just look on the reference photo, just go horizontally and just see where that lines up with. So it lines up with these two bottom reflections, so you can just do it there. And don't worry if these aren't absolutely perfect and perfectly in the right place. It's absolutely fine. The most important thing is to get all like the shading right. So you want like dark around the edge, again light, and then dark in the middle. So you just make these lines. But if you don't feel comfortable and you don't want to do these like sort of wiggly lines, it's not a necessity. It's good just to kind of practice your shading on the eye. So that's what I would do basically. Just work your way down, make sure you keep checking where your reference is from what you've already drawn in. And I would just do a load of those across the eye. So I'm just going to show you a little trick on the reflections now. So obviously they're bright white at the moment and you think they're going to be reflecting something. So here, this is a window, and obviously you look through a window and you see the sky. So I'm just going to get rid of a little mark that I've made. So what I like to do, especially if you've got an eye and you can't see there's any obvious reflections in it, you can just make up a reflection. So just put in like sort of a rounded sort of rectangle shape, and all you need to do is get a blue. So I'm using mid ultramarine, and you can just put in blue as almost like as if you're drawing clouds. So let's say you can see on the, well, we might be able to see on the reference photo, there's some clouds around here. So you basically just draw the outline of where the clouds are. So just white fluffy clouds like that. And then you can colour that in like that. So you've got your bit of sky. And now you want to make parts of your sky a little bit darker. So I'm using a deep blue, and just around the edge, just here, just going to add in some blue, some of the darker blue. Not too much, just a little bit. Now your clouds will be grey in areas. They look very, very white, but if you just add in a little bit of grey, it just adds some definition to them. So you can just make this bit up and have fun. You can add a little bit in, you can add a lot in, just like that. And it just adds something to the eye, and you got the reflections, and then whatever is reflected in it, it's just obviously, it shows that the eye is real. I know that sounds like stupid and obvious, but unless you can see some colour in the reflection, it can look a bit off. So it's the same again over here with these reflections. So I'm just going to add in some, actually I'm just going to go around the edge of these with some darker colours just to define them a little bit more. So I'm going to use brown ochre around this one. It'll look a bit funny this because I've not blended it in, but it's just to show you the reflection area basically. Like that. So again, mid ultramarine. Just gonna pop in some blue. You can draw the clouds as they are if you can see them, or if you just want to make up a few clouds, that's absolutely fine. So just a bit of blue there, and then I'll get my deep blue, just add in a few darker areas like that. Just gives more of a tone to the sky then, because if you look at the sky, obviously you'll see it goes from light to dark, and it's like a sunset. The colours will change down, it'll go in a gradient. And then I'll go back to my platinum, and I'll just add in a few shadows where the clouds are. I might just try and change the shape of this one a little bit, make it look a bit more of a fluffy cloud. You can just have a play. And if you want, just separately, you could just draw a few shapes as if they were reflections and just have a go within them yourself. So yeah, like I said, it looks a bit odd because there's this dark line around it. I might just try and blend it out a little bit so it looks a bit more normal. But it's because I've not done this side of the eye. There you go. Like that. So it's starting to come together. Yeah, so obviously if I'd done this dark area all the way around, it would start to really stand out then. So if maybe like I do that, you can see it's starting to come to life now. But yeah, so we've got 5 minutes left. So this has gone so quickly. Okay, so I'm going to show you now this white part of the eye. Now with dog's eyes, animal eyes, you'll find that it isn't bright white. Well, with any eye really. If you look at a human eye, it's got slightly bluey, but with this dog's eye, I can see it's slightly pink. Maybe it was a bit tired that day, I don't know. But what I do is I'll just rub out this outline here. Not too much again, just so I can just about see it. But it's going to be quite light, this area, so I don't want that to come through. And I'm going to get Oyster, and I'm going to go around the edge with that down here, because this little triangular bit is very sort of like a very white bluey colour, so I don't want the pink in there. And I'm just going to bring it down here, and then you can just colour that in. Now you don't want to go too far, so what you do again is it's all about pressure. So around the edge it's more pressure, and then you gradually get less pressure, and it just blends it out then. Now it's the lighter colour, so I'm going to use, which colours have I got here? I might go straight in with the dusty pink, I think. And again, I'll just go around the edge, as I did before. Now eyes are great for practicing pencil pressures on paper. It's amazing the difference it makes just putting like more pressure on and less pressure. And again, I'm going to go more pressure at the edge and out to less pressure. And keep looking at your reference photo, like that. And then it is a little bit bluey around the edge of the eye there, so I'm going to get my trusty mid ultramarine, and I'm just going to do just a few light strokes. See, I'm not colouring in like this now because I want it to be super duper light, so very, very light pressure. I'm just going to do lots of strokes. So if you do one stroke and you think, oh, it's too much, like, you can just stop, get your pencil eraser, just brush over a little bit, rather than colouring a little, like, too much and then thinking, oh no, I've gone way too far now. So just individual strokes like that there. And then I'm going to get a slightly darker colour, and my cloud grey. Quite a nice silvery grey this one is. And then I'm just going to, again, just do a few strokes, not too much. It's much darker up here than down the bottom. Like that. And there we go. And then there's also a little bit of brown. So you just keep looking at your reference photo. And the more you look at it, the more colours you'll start to see come through. So I'm going to use brown ochre. Just pop that in like that, there, like so. So I'm aware we're almost out of time, but if you'll bear with me, I'll just show you this little bit, and then I'll quickly show you. I'm not going to draw the fur, but I'll explain how to do the fur around the eye. So this little bit here, you don't want too much, just a little bit of platinum, just a little bit, and then some mid ultramarine there. Now what I might do actually, get some cloud grey, because this is quite dark here. Get some cloud grey and go along that line and just, you know, gradient it out slightly, not too much, just to define this pinky area. Like that there. So yeah, I'll definitely scan this and put it on my Instagram stories so you can see the colours better, because it does look very fiery on the screen. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you around here. We just zoom out or go up slightly. So, well, I'm going to go around this bit. Zoom out. There we go, that's better. Right. So, if I just get brown ochre, for example, and with the eye, you've got the tear duct, and then you've got the other corner of the eye here. Now, with fur around eyes, it fans out. Like I said in the bumblebee tutorial, the fur fanned around the bumblebee, that was last week. The fur fans out around an eye. So it starts off, so you've got, so the tear duct comes up to here, And obviously you've got the skin, a little bit of skin around here. Now with the skin, you use the same sort of blending technique as you use in this area here. And then as you come to the fur goes out this way, like that. And then over here, the fur follows the line of the eye. So the eye comes round and it goes down. And again, so it just follows that line. So you've got this starting point here, which goes out, like goes straight out from the tear ducts. If the tear duct was pointing down this way, it would go down like that. So you've got that starting point and that starting point, and you just fan the fur around. So it would go out in this sort of direction like that, and it come round like that. So that's basically how the fur would go. So it'd fan around the eye. And then the same down here, it would go like this. And then once it gets to down this side here, you get to about sort of a third of the way across the eyeball, and it actually starts to go in the same direction as over here, you'll find. So above it fans out, down here it fans, and then it stops. It goes like that. So like that, and it comes up to meet that one there, if that makes sense. And then with the nose, you can't see it on the reference photo, but I'll explain it anyway for when you might want to do this with other dogs. So the fur on the nose comes up, so it meets like at a point like that. So what you'll do is, if you say there's a nose fur here, so it's the snout coming up, and the fur goes to a point like this, and then it all starts to meet in the middle like this, like that. So you'll find that when you draw a dog or an animal, their fur will meet. So the eye is almost like the fur around the eye has got its own sort of set of rules where it will go where it wants to around the eye, and then here it goes the other way. So you just meet it together like that, and it then goes up like that. So I hope that makes sense. And yeah, there's kind of a lot to kind of get through in one tutorial, and I hope that went in but helpful, and I had some useful tips for you there. Sorry we didn't get the whole item. I didn't expect to, because it is a lot to do, but I hope that I covered everything that you needed to know. And if you do have any questions, please just send me a message and I'll answer them for you. So I'll say that we've got another tutorial next week. That one's fully booked as well, but any that are coming next week, I can't wait to have you again. We'll be drawing a lion on white paper and on black paper, so I can show you the different techniques for white and black paper. And I think that's all I need to say. So I hope you have a lovely rest of the evening. Thank you for joining me with this, and if you do draw an eye, please tag me and Derwent in it, because we'd love to see it. And we'll see you next week. Right, thanks guys, bye.